Today I'm going to can chicken breasts. It's kind of nice when the grocery store has them on sale for cheap. I think these ones were $1.49 a pound. The problem with putting these in the freezer and saving them in bulk is when you just want one or two to use for a meal, you have to thaw out the whole pack. Yes, I could pack them in plastic bags or individually wrap them, but then you have the issues of freezer burning and still having to unthaw them when you come home and just want a quick meal. The nice thing about canning these is they're already cooked, they're ready to go, and it's a super easy way to come home and have enchiladas or nachos or casserole or countless recipes. So that's what we're going to do today. I have a brand new pack of jars. So they are clean. I will not have to sterilize them. They'll be sterilized during the process. And I have my water warming on the stove. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut up about 1.5 breasts per pint jar. I do like the wide mouths just because they're easier to clean after and easier to put the bulky items into the jar initially. There's really nothing fancy about filling your jars. I try to just put individual servings in and not to pack them too tight. I try to get some of the air pockets out, but I don't want to just be shoving stuff in there either until it's completely scrunched. You do need room for some of the juices to expand. With the cold pack method, you don't need to add any extra liquid. It will go ahead and create its own juice and liquid just from the cooking process. I do like to leave about 1 inch headspace just to allow for that liquid to expand and give it space in the jar. Some people will add about 1/2 teaspoon of salt per batch. I've done that in the past and I found that I just didn't like the extra salt. So I'm not going to add it on this batch. I ended up with 5 pints of chicken breasts ready to go. Some of them, the fuller ones, I ended up with about 1.5 breasts. And in some of the other jars, I just put 1 breast. The breasts are pretty big, and this would be about a single serving size. If I wanted to just come home and make a quick batch of stir fry, I can just empty out the juice, pour the chicken in the pan, add in my vegetables, a little sauce, and I have a meal ready to go in about 10 minutes. So now that I know how many jars I have filled with chicken, I'm going to go ahead and put my lids in some warm water. And this isn't for the purpose of sterilization, it's merely just to soften the gummy edge along the side to help with a more consistent seal. In a couple of the jars where I didn't have them filled with chicken, where they're only about halfway, I did put just a little bit of water in there just to help with the juice. I don't really care for when my meat is standing above the juice. It's fine, it doesn't hurt it at all, but I just don't like how it can sometimes get a little bit dried out looking. And as always, you want to make sure you wipe the rims really well to make sure that there's no food residue on the rims. I do like to put a little bit of vinegar on my towel whenever I can meat or anything that would have fat associated with it, just because it helps cut through any residual film that may be on the jar rim. And of course, if these were not brand new jars, and even so, you want to make sure that there's no cracks or nicks or anything that's going to interfere with the seal of your lid. Putting my lids on finger tight and placing them in the pressure canner to start warming up. You don't want them touching, and you don't want them touching the sides just to prevent them from rattling around and breaking. Try to evenly distribute them. There, looks pretty good. We have a solid venting of steam coming out of the canner, so we set our timer on the stove for 10 minutes, and we're going to let it exhaust for 10 minutes, and then we'll close our valve and bring our pressure up to 12 pounds of pressure to start the canning process. The canner has completely cooled down and pressure returned to 0, so I pulled the jars out using a jar lifter, and you can see how much liquid there is in the jars, and a couple of these, I think 2 of them, I added a little bit of liquid, but I didn't add on anything on the other ones. So most of that liquid is broth and fat. And the thing I like about, or one of the things I like about canning my own meat is the fat separates and rises to the top and solidifies, especially for venison. If you don't get all of the little bits of fat off your venison, it can leave a little bit of a gamey taste. But when you can, all of that fat is dissolved away from the meat, and it's easily removed from the top of the surface of the product when you go to cook it and eat it later.